Good evening, everybody. Um, Angshus here, otherwise known as the OCD guy. I'm going to start by saying this isn't going to be a perfect video. I have at no point decided to be a social media influencer. I try and make neutral videos and pretty much not for self-gain. I did start in the beginning by promoting a book that I wrote, which, yes, was to promote a book that I wrote to potentially try and get it out there, but it was based on, excuse me, a chronic history with OCD, hand in hand with addiction, long years past, but I didn't set out to make a lot of money from the book. I really just wanted to portray OCD on its own in conjunction with all the symptoms that go with it, which quite often I believe are worse than the illness itself. But I, like I say, originally started a channel to start by trying to get the book out there because I'm not tech savvy and I was just struggling to, I just couldn't connect with publishers. As stated prior, self-publishing was just way too expensive. Tried to upload online and found it just absolutely painful. And still to this day, I've got a completed manuscript, hard copy ebook that's just been shelved because I don't necessarily have the skills at my age to get it up online yet. But anyway, that's not the point of this video. I think I just said earlier, this won't be a perfect video. I'm not the sort of guy that edits and has a crew that, goes through and makes changes, and I just make a raw video. And I try and do it from a neutral basis. I do not want to come across as being opinionated or by any means some bloody prophet or the guy that knows it all, because I don't. I've been in a work in progress for a long, long time. I made catastrophic mistakes in my own life, in conjunction with really, really bad mental health, and my own personal responsibility with really bad choices. But it's been 3 minutes and 20 seconds, so I think that I should probably start to get to where I'm trying to get to. This may go for a while, and I don't know what's going to happen when I try and upload it, but we'll worry about that later. I am on here tonight to not try and blame anyone, not try and implicate anyone, not try and talk about races or race issues, but I want to sort of try and keep things general, maybe a bit specific, but I can't help it. I feel compelled because I'm full-blown OCD. I live and breathe OCD, and that's fine as long as I don't hurt anyone. But I do feel compelled to make this video. So where am I heading with it? Okay, so I've got 1,000 different thoughts going in different directions, and so I haven't made a list of stuff to work through, so it'll be on the fly, hence it won't be a perfect video. And if I start to divert, well, then I'll try and get back on topic, because I do end up diverting because of a brain issue. But most of what I'll say is based on prior experience or stuff that I see right there in front of me on a daily basis. Endless research, podcasts, documentaries, and I'm not on here to just sort of say If you like my content, like and subscribe, hit the notification bell. For those that do, no worries. But really, videos like this are just trying to put a viewpoint out there. Not even an opinionated viewpoint, just some ideas, some thoughts. And I guess where I'm heading with this is, let's talk about Australia alone. Not worry about any other country. But, I mean, I guess to start with, things just aren't pretty. We watch the news of a night time. We watch certain shows discussing current affairs. And let's face it, 90% of it is pretty damn bad. First topic I'd like to touch on is, well, actually, let's just group this video into a topic of discussion, or a series of a few topics of discussion. I would like to talk about cause and effect, the chicken or the egg scenario, the lack of real reform that ultimately leads to what I consider the worst thing on the planet, which is toxicity, which breeds toxicity, which breeds toxicity. I sometime went back and said that my personal belief was that the biggest crime we could commit on this planet, being my own personal opinion, was to fail as a parent. Now, as stated so many times, I have made a lot of mistakes in my life. I haven't got a criminal record, but I basically only just got my shit together in time, just in time, before I may have impacted my son's life. Now, I don't choose to look back because it hurts. It really does. I never physically hurt my son. I've always loved my son. But I had addiction issues before he started to probably know too much. All of that's gone. But you know, I knew something was wrong with me at 7 years old. And I was diagnosed at 15. And for 35 years, I've been seeing the same psychiatrist. So, you know, I'll be the first one to put my hand up and say, I'm a work in progress. But I will put it out there that I have a fantastic relationship with a very beautiful boy that I'm incredibly proud of. I'm not going to go into too much detail about him because that wouldn't be appropriate. But, my God, look, to be honest, I'm the sort of guy where if I had 2 weeks available and could eat and take a couple of weeks off work and go to the loo when I had to, I could literally just talk and talk and talk and talk to the point where people would be asleep in front of me, and I'm actually not even trying to be funny. My brain is just an explosion of information, and I find it really hard with OCD to just stick to a topic. I will start talking about this topic with someone in the terms of running my business, and I just have to sort of try and bring it back to the original question that was asked, or statement that began with. So yeah, I will start talking about something and it will divert and divert. So I've really got to physically, manually take control of where I'm going. Now we're heading up to 10 minutes and we haven't really gotten into it, so I better get into it. We are seeing an incredible amount of problems, failure, downward spiral going on in Australia. Now, just trying to think where to start. Okay, so let's talk about it. We've got cause and effect, otherwise known as what I would refer to as the chicken or the egg. So we've got causes of massive problems, from crime right through to politics, and one really big one which I'll get into, which is, and I feel incredibly strongly about this, but I've got a really big problem with the schooling system and the fact that children are afraid to go to school. Now, we've just brought in reform whereby they're going to stop kids under 16 being able to access social media. Great, because to be honest, I went through a living hell at school. I don't blame my parents. I am not even going to go into who I blame, but going to school with a chronic mental illness was a living hell. I actually believed when I was at school that the rest of the world was going to be like that when I left school. I was fortunate enough to go overseas for a year. I won't go into all that, but that lifted my spirits and changed my viewpoint. However, while I was overseas, I still suffered chronic depression, anxiety, etc. These aren't my points that I want to talk about. This is not about me. This is about the fact that we are seeing constant failures in this country. Now, I want to get onto the school thing. I was saying, back when I was going through a living hell at school, why aren't kids held accountable? Legally accountable. If there's documented proof that a child or a group of children are making someone's life a pure hell, that should be illegal. I've talked about it in the past, in a book, maybe online, can't remember. Let's look at the classic scenario. Child has a problem at school, goes home and tells the parents. Parents go to the principal, tell the principal. What does the principal do? Brings a kid or kids involved in that are doing the damage to the child. In a perfect world, they would then be reprimanded, damage would stop. We all know that's not the case. What happens? Kid goes back to school the next day, predators go after him, might take a day or two, and he's back to square one again. So we've got this cycle, this conundrum. And we're not just talking about school. It'll go on in the workplace. And here we are in 2025. I finished school back in 1993. And I'm pretty sure if I went to schools right now and said, what sort of legalities have you got put in place to hold kids legally accountable, as in the police will be called if you cause massive distress to another individual. Now, he may be just a regular kid, he may be impoverished, he may be autistic, I don't care. I mean, bless them all. It doesn't matter. If the child is not causing problems to other people, but is being attacked on a repeated basis, I was saying a hell of a long time ago that I'm pretty sure that if the parents were involved of the child that's doing the damage, the police were involved, this stuff could be nipped in the bud pretty quick. If I had it my way, if I knew that my child was going to school and going through pure hell, and it would never be one-on-one, it'll be like 5-on-1 or 10-on-1. If I knew that my kid was going through that, I would, even if the school had no setup, I would do my damnedest to make it legal. I would go to the police, I would put in a police report, and if that kid had to be taken and put in jail for a day, when I say jail, I just mean the lockup, I'm not talking the outlet or anything like that. If that kid has to be put in the lockup and sit there all day, write an essay, or just be left to think for 10 hours about his behaviour, and it won't be 1, it'll be 5, it'll be 10, because this is how brave some of these individuals are. You know, it won't be 1-on-1, it'll be 5-on-1 or 10-on-1, which makes me sick. If I went into these schools and said, what sort of legal processes, and I haven't done it, but I'm pretty sure there's not been a lot put into place. On top of that, I want to move past that. In all the time from me leaving school in 1993, when I had the same beliefs, to now, being in 2025, out of all of the courses that they'll teach at school, has there ever been a course put in place where children are taught from a young age the importance of how to treat each other and the benefits of treating each other well? Because what I'm seeing now is a situation where in the later generations it's almost too late. The damage has already been done. If kids grow up with all sorts of trauma, whether it be that they caused trauma to other individuals at school or whether they went through trauma themselves, it doesn't matter. Trauma, 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 trauma. Which then leads to drugs, leads to criminality, whether it be through the victim, whether it be through the offender, it doesn't matter. This is the end result, cause and effect. Now, if I get it my way, I want to basically go around and do talks in schools, not to be some bloody hero, not even to be known really who I am. Just, okay, keep it legit, get your police clearance, get your working with children clearance, go into the school, talk to the principal and say, I just want to do talks on basically talking about my history and what I went through and the importance. Just excuse me, I should deal with my dog for a minute. It's on my head. Get on your bed. Get on your bed now. Move. Get on your bed. Get on your bed. I would like to go and get permission. And I'm not talking about payment. I'm not interested in that. But I'd like to get permission from even one school, even just one school, to basically say, look, I've done courses, I've had all this experience, I've written a book, I don't want to be a hero, I just want to talk to kids and say, look, if you do this to other kids, this is what happens. And then, if you then grow up and marry someone, and then their kids, your own kids, end up doing the same things as what you did, we're going to have a generational problem that'll go on and go on and go on. So then what happens then? It leads to drugs, crime, you name it. We all know how it goes. So I believe in going back to grassroots. Start with grassroots. Start with the young and build our way up, because it's too big a process to basically start with the older generations and try and work problems out. What's the fastest way? I'm not a believer in go out there and protest, and if I'm going to make change, I want change today. If not change today, change tomorrow. One of the biggest problems in Australia is we're so good at just talking and talking and talking. I am sick and tired of hearing about kids that are in the most insane distress and going home and doing the worst, which I don't think I can say online, but we all know what that is. A child in Australia, whether it be female or male, should never, ever, ever be afraid to go to school. Now, I understand that parents with certain kids with disabilities, like autism, need to homeschool their kids. Now, this is for two reasons. Number one, they're obviously getting bullied at school. And number two, the school environment doesn't fit autistic kids. And I'm only just giving one example, and I don't pretend to know everything about autism and, parents with autistic kids. Look, I'm a layman. I'm just talking about what I see in front of me with a few ideas. I don't pretend to know it all. But I understand that homeschooling is the best result for certain parents. There was a show on TV tonight where they went off into all sorts of tangents about why the modern school system doesn't really work, and I get that as well. But that's a whole other issue, because I do need to curb this video to a certain degree. So, I believe if you want to nip stuff in the bud, make kids feel free to go to school and feel safe, what do? You put the fear of God through the predator, and there won't be one, because there never is. They like to gang up on one. It's never just one-on-one. And that's the saddest part in the whole world. It's a group that'll gang up on one. So what does that tell you? I won't even go there. Now, I'm pretty sure that if police were going to schools and saying, You know, it doesn't have to be paraded in front of the rest of the students, but, you know, just this kid gets called to the office under, you know, Section B, Act 1, whatever. We have now got, you know, a certain amount of history that you've been hassling either this child or numerous child, or you in conjunction with these other kids have been doing this. You are now going to go in front of a judge, and you are now going to end up with whatever real criminal punishment. Now, whether it goes on record, I mean, that's a whole other issue. But if you start to do that, what's going to happen is it's going to send a message. Once you send a message, kids start to understand that, okay, that's the boundary. If I cross that boundary, it's not going to be good. I mean, let's face it, if a kid's in year 12 and he knows that he can't go to Bali after schoolies, or whatever it may be, because he's going to have a criminal history, he's going to stop doing what he's doing. But the problem is we've got like a government that just pussyfoots around, and they're really good at talking about what may work or could work, or we could do this, but nothing happens. I mean, I've talked before about, for how many decades do you talk about a judicial system that doesn't work? Anyway, I'm going to try and move on. I want to talk about, and I'm not going to be able to cover the trillion different topics that I feel like talking about. I'm going to end up writing another book. But we've got a broken system that's just not just broken, it's smashed to pieces. Now, it's happening with about 3 different countries at the same time. I'm not going to go into wars. I'm not going to start to talk about, you know, what's going on in America or the UK. I'm just going to talk about what's going on here. You've got legislation and policies that don't work. You've got huge amounts of money that are spent in the wrong places. You've got homelessness. And you know what the insanity is? When people really need help, it's not the government that comes in and actually really helps them. Because let's face it, people need immediate help. They don't need to go on a 3-month waiting list with Centrelink or NDIS. They need immediate help. I mean, I needed assistance a while ago. I'm actually starting to smash it with business, but I needed assistance a while ago. Where do I end up? A charity. And why was I there? Just to get, I mean, I wasn't far behind, maybe $1,000 or $2,000 behind, just to catch up. I made it back, I made it myself. Because I couldn't even get accepted for a nils loan. Now you might go, well, that's because you've made this mistake or that mistake. No, what it was because I wasn't on a certain, well, I'll just come out and say it, I wasn't on Centrelink. I wasn't getting paid by an employer. And all the money I was making per day that I was getting invoices for, I was depositing into my own bank account. So the computer said no. So halfway through, I already realised that I can't even get a nils loan. Now, I wasn't after a handout. I just wanted to get on top of stuff and then continue independently. But what I'm saying is, the system's so sad in Australia that when you're in real deep trouble, you end up at a charity. And then, on top of that, I just want to get this out there quickly before I forget. Do you know who are the majority of the people who go out there and offer assistance to DV sufferers, to children who are suffering, that have come out of horrendous household situations? The majority of the people who go out and help those kids are kids who have already been offended against themselves. Now, why am I mentioning all this? Because where's the government? When you actually go to a charity to get assistance, when there's so many kids that have actually been through hell and back in their life that they want to offer assistance to other kids, which is fantastic and good on them, because the resilience from those kids is beyond words. I don't care whether you've got $15 million as a self-made entrepreneur, or you're this individual that's gone through a living hell and come out of it at the other end and made something of your life. There is no stronger human being on this earth than that individual, being a girl or a guy. Because I've just seen some horrendous stuff through horrendous upbringing, and what does this come back to again? Cause and effect, chicken or the egg. You know, you got a toxic upbringing, the whole topic of failure as a parent. One of the biggest crimes on the planet, failure as a parent. Why is it such a massive crime on the planet? Because it becomes generational. Not just that, it breeds and breeds and breeds. Now, moving on. What do we got? Endless youth crime. I've already talked about this stuff so many times. Endless youth crime, you know, endless bloody drug problems and drug importations and scamming and God knows what. Now, you've got this whole scheme of just absolute sickness, toxicity. Now, how long, how many decades, how many centuries is that going to continue for? Because eventually, something's going to go bang. But what disgusts me the most out of everything is the government just don't seem to be there. Let's say I'm in deep trouble tomorrow financially. I've run a business for 17 years. Every dollar I see is self-created. Whoopee-doo. So what? The buck stops with me. But what I'm saying is, if I'm in crisis, there's no one there. There's no one to reach to. A certain politician will get on the phone and get online, get on the TV or online and say, "Well, you just call Centrelink." You know, a certain man that, yeah, I think he's in a different position now, but it was just call Centrelink. Yeah, just call Centrelink. Probably ring them at 9 in the morning, you'd be on there till 5 at night, probably blown day at work and get nowhere. Probably just get given an answer that you already knew. So, you know, you've got broken system after broken system after broken system. Well, like I said before, you've got cause and effect. You've got the chicken before the egg. What comes first? And then where's the reform? Because without reform, what changes? Are we going to wait till we've got like a civil war? Are we going to wait till, you know, we've got like just total anarchy in the streets, looting, bombings, you know, like this idea I heard from someone the other day where you arm everyone in Australia. Has anyone actually ever thought about the fact that guns breed guns? I mean, this idea was built on the fact that we've got a broken judicial system. Police are doing their job. This is just not enough of them. And how many police are sitting back going, well, we're arresting them, we're putting them in front of a judge, and they're out 2 hours later on bail, and they're doing the same thing again. And I'll ask the same question all over again. Where's the parents? Where's the parents? Where's the parents? So, where am I going with this? You've got to create change, and not change that takes 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. Because in that time, we could have gone broke. We could have had so many more deaths. We could have had so many more kids in horrendous situations. I mean, I was watching a special the other day where, you know, two brothers that love each other, the bits have gone through hell at home, and then they go into the system, and then what do they want to do? They want to break the kids up and set them. I mean, you know, for God's sake, if you're at the top and you're getting paid megabucks, you've got a duty of care, you've got a responsibility, you're in a profession, and earn your money. When it comes back to charities that have to pick up the pieces, when it comes back to sufferers that end up going out there and trying to actually fix what's going on in the suburbs, doing one-on-one or doing talks in schools, where's the government? Where's the money being pumped into real stuff that's going to make real change? You know, we need to communicate. Communicate. We need to sit down and start working through stuff that is just getting compounded to a worse degree on a daily basis. And it's just getting, like, it's like, look at what's happened in 10 years. If I talk to someone that moved here 10 years ago and I say to them, I've spent 50 years in Australia, have you seen big change in the last 10 years? They'll say, yeah. And they only moved here 10 years ago. I can't drive down a street now for 5 minutes without nearly 4 or 5 people hitting me. No one can stay in their own lane because there's no police there to see it. There's a camera there to ping everyone, but it won't be pinging the people that are nearly hitting me 4 or 5 times a day. And as I said before, if my vehicle gets hit, I'm wiped off the road. And it's always the offender that comes off better because the guy that actually gets hit in his vehicle ends up picking up all the pieces. And usually, he's busting his bum to make every penny he can because he's already been let down by the system. So we've got failure after failure after failure. So at some point, you've basically got the chicken or the egg scenario. Cause and effect. No reform. Endless toxicity. From the lowest levels to the highest levels. And right now, all I can think is, as many people as possible that are normal, rational, reasonable people that have got life experience or lived experience, I'm not going to tell anyone what to do, but I feel like doing it myself, and I have done some training. Go into schools with police clearances and working with kids. Don't try and be a hero, just trying to say, look, to these kids, I made all these mistakes, and if you make them as well, you look back 20 years later and think, my God, what a waste. Or if I had done this way, things would have been a lot better. If I'd gotten a house as soon as I could, or when it was the right time to buy, I would have not been looking back 20 or 25 years later like me going, I should have bought when I actually had my act together. Now, I had too many problems when I was young. I understand what happened. But now I've gotten on my feet, and thank God I have. And why have I gotten back on my feet? Because I had a huge amount of decades of therapy from the government, who I'm going to owe and give back and pay forward to, because they're the reason I'm here today, as well as my family. Now, I'm not saying problems aren't going to be there tomorrow. Of course, there's always going to be problems, but we've got to lower anxiety, we've got to make better mental health, and we've got to start fixing problems as of immediately. Because if we don't, everyone knows what's going to happen. You can have lineups kilometres long out of Centrelink. You can have phone calls to Lifeline and Beyond Blue that become shorter and shorter and shorter because that many more people are ringing them every day. And for God's sake, when we've got 1/5 of the poker machines in the world, do you think there's a problem? When you've got a government that's saying, we want people to give up smoking, but then as soon as they start to lose tax revenue, all of a sudden we've really got to crack down on the underground tobacco, because, this is causing such crime and damage and businesses are hurting. No, the government's hurting. Because they actually thought that upping the price of cigarettes was going to curb smoking. All right, okay. But then when you're losing tax revenue and you actually come out and admit that you're losing tax revenue, what is it? You want people to stop smoking? Or you want to actually make more in tax revenue when you lift the price of the cigarettes to $100 a packet? Now, I could go on and on and on and on and on, but I think you know where this is heading. There is too much going wrong. And I could say a million more things, because that's the way my brain works. I've done the best to try and curb it to a whole series of topics. But ultimately, what am I talking about? I'm talking about a world where we can start to communicate and create reform and immediate change and start to fix stuff immediately, from tomorrow. Real change, real legislation, real policy change, real action by real politicians that really want to do their job and not go on holiday when things turn bad, and people step up to the plate and stop just leaving the little guy to pick up all the pieces. Stop blowing money, obscene amounts of money, on defence and, programs that go nowhere. Just remember, politicians, you're living off the taxpayers' dollars. The ones that are now suffering to be able to buy a house, who've got not a hope in hell, housing crisis through the roof. At what point are you going to stop smiling on camera like everything's okay and actually go home and look at yourself in the mirror and think, how am I going to sleep tonight? Or tomorrow night? Or the night after that? Because I can tell you, there's responsibility from the lowest level to the highest level. And people who are earning filthy amounts of money, while the lower end of the scale are suffering and suffering and suffering, to the point where you're getting more homeless and more homeless and more homeless, and less houses and less houses and less houses, and you're bringing more migrants and more migrants and more migrants, when all the economists are telling you this is going to turn really, really bad, and nothing changes. What part of that don't you get, guys? At the top, what part of that don't you get? Because my heart bleeds. My heart bleeds for the average, normal, logical, reasonable, respectable Australian that just wants to go to work, be able to pay his bills and go home without a shit ton of anxiety and the weight of the world on his shoulders.
or her shoulders. And in terms of the workplace, and in terms of the school environment, it should be bloody safe. And if it's not, government, have a look at the situation and hold yourselves accountable and do something about it. Because I'm dead set serious. Because this is bullshit. Australia will go under for so many reasons. Why? Because there's no real reform, there's no real change, there's no real policy, there's no real legislation, and God knows how many few actual real decent politicians are going to try against God knows how many that are going to sit back and do bugger all. Because why? They're going to feed their own pockets, not really worry about their own responsibility. They'll just get through their job until retirement, sail off into the sunset with a pocket full of money at the taxpayer's expense, and then what? We get the same again, and the same again, and the same again? Or do we actually stop and make real change and make Australia a better place to live? And God, it's a massive, never-ending story and topic. But there's actually people who actually sit there and get paid a hell of a lot of money to take responsibility to fix this shit. I'll do my bit. I'll give it everything I got outside of a 16-hour day, and I'll probably be one of many of the few that's at the lower end of the scale, in conjunction with the charities that are doing the job that the bloody government should be taking care of. I'll probably leave it there, but I think you probably know how I feel. Because I know how I feel, and I know that a lot of you out there feel the same. And I don't begin to want to be opinionated. I'm just going to say it how it is. I might not have it all right. I might not know all the ins and the outs and the Bureau of Statistics figures, but I can say what's right there in bloody front of me. Thank you very much. My name's Angshus. I'm the OCD guy. And let's just, dare I say it, have a good day tomorrow. And let's make the best of probably a bad situation right now. And let's just bloody hope it gets better. Love to you all. I really mean it. See ya.